Welcome back to Community Conversations. I'm your host, Steve Mantis, and my guest is City Councillor for Thunder Bay, Andrew Foulds. Welcome back, Andrew.
Thanks, Steve.
In the last segment, you were talking about the balances, and one of your passions is parks and recreation.
Yeah.
And this is an area I wonder about because a friend of mine had his career working in Parks and Rec here in Thunder Bay. He's a retired guy now.
Yep.
But when he started, there was 100 supervisors that worked in the summer in the parks. Last count, there was 25.
Yeah.
You know, for me, I kind of go, it's not just about having fun, it's about engaging youth, about giving them an opportunity to see life different than what they might see in some of the neighborhoods that maybe aren't that healthy. So that whole crime prevention piece, it really speaks to me,
Yeah.
but that's not where our municipal government has headed. And you're saying they still want to cut more out of parks budgets. How do we get that balance? Where do we just need more money, or is there something, you know, that maybe could get less money and we put more into something like parks? How do we handle that?
You've got a good question there, Steve. And I think the reality is, people who believe what you have just stated and what I believe need to get involved in the political process, and they need to run for office. And we have to make the arguments to change priorities. Or realign priorities, or make that kind of investment. You know, one of the issues in the city of Thunder Bay, and we know this, is poverty. Mm-hmm. Poverty is an issue. I'm very lucky, and in the first segment, you talked to me about what do you do, where are you from, and I mean, I'm so lucky. I'm working in a professions that I love, and I'm fairly compensated for that. There are many in our community that are struggling day to day, putting food on their table. And I really tip my hat to councillors like Councillor Paul Pugh, who's the head of our poverty reduction strategy. And that committee that he chairs is working with a lot of different community partners to try to deal with this very significant issue, income inequality. And that's one of the reasons why I support so strongly parks, youth investment, youth programming, because I think it gives a lot of kids opportunities to learn and skill development, healthy living. And it's one of those factors that I think deals with that. We have a new program in the city of Thunder Bay called Youth Move, which is accessible to all youth, but also those on the fringes. And I'm really hopeful that there's that engagement of youth. I mean, one of the great programs that the city does run is the Parks program, where you do have that supervision in some of our playgrounds program, where youth can show up. And there's programming for them. There's skill development. There's social interaction. I mean, those things are huge. I have 3 sons. They head down to the Current River Rec all the time. And it's anything from, putting on their skates and playing with whoever's down there, in terms of the hockey. They've also gone down in the playgrounds. My boys also just play in the parks. And so that kind of investment, we need to make the argument that it's worth it, that it's making a difference. It's dealing with youth, giving them positive experiences, but also we have to measure success. There's lots of new things that are emerging. I mean, we just went through our recreational master plan, and there's some really, really cool stuff in there where there's reinvestment in our neighborhoods. And we need to do it in a sort of 21st century type of mind frame. We have that new exercise equipment down at Minnesota Park as an example. I mean, I don't know if you're familiar, but disc golf is one of these things that's actually just 2 blocks away from my house. And Steve, in the summertime, that part of the park 10 years ago was not being used. There are hundreds, maybe thousands of people use it now. They've designed a course where they may in fact be able to host provincial and national championships here in Thunder Bay. But you know, that investment was $16,000.
Yeah.
And we're bringing in provincial. We need to think differently and progressively and come up with these kinds of pickleball. I mean, I'm not really sure I know what pickleball is, but it's one of those things that's emerging as an activity that youth want. The skateboard park down at the marina, that investment was $1 million. But isn't it cool that in the middle of winter, there are youth down there shoveling it off so that they can skateboard? I mean, how many times have you been down there where there's been no one using that facility? I mean, youth are using it all the time. So we need to make the argument. We need to elect politicians that see this as a priority. We need to make the investment, and we need to understand the long-term benefits of that investment.
And where will that money come from for the investment?
Well, I mean, yeah, it's a challenge. Municipally, we have few revenue tools. One of them, of course, is property tax, which is very regressive as a fixed tax. Remember, provincially and federally, it is a little bit more progressive in the sense that it's based on income tax. Now, I would argue that it needs some fixing as well. I guess we have a very active intergovernmental affairs committee chaired by Councillor Verderamo. And we need to continue to make arguments to the other orders of government to continue to fund, upload some of the services, and perhaps give us other tools that we can raise revenue. We're also very lucky here in the city of Thunder Bay. You know, I know that we're being filmed on Shaw, but the municipality owns T-Baytel.
Yep.
And that is a huge asset for the city of Thunder Bay. We own Thunder Bay Hydro. You know, not every municipality has those assets, and I would argue that keeping those in the public realm serve a public benefit. And so, you know, it's a challenge. Revenue is always a challenge. But again, I come back to, I think those incremental increases that are reasonable and fair, that reflect inflation, maybe a little higher, maybe a little lower, as proper budgeting, but also looking at those other revenue tools and being creative. We have photovoltaics on some of our facilities. So Thunder Bay Hydro is getting into some of those other revenue generation tools. And so we need to think about those as well.
Right on. So we're coming to the end of the show
Yep.
and our time together, Andrew. If people want to find out more or get in touch with you, what's the best way to do that?
I appreciate the question. I do have a home office and a phone line, and my number is 766-9914. But frankly, the easiest, fastest way to get a hold of me is through my email, because, of course, we have all these electronic devices that we carry with us all the time. But I get lots of emails, I get lots of Facebook messages, and I get messages on Twitter. So any of those three electronic sources are probably the best way to get a hold of me and the fastest way to get a hold of me.
We'll put that on screen.
That would be great, yeah.
Thanks so much for joining us.
Thank you, sir.
We're just winding down. I want to remind folks we're on Facebook. You can search for Community Conversations. We're always looking for your ideas and suggestions. Please stay safe until we see you next week.